everyone, and welcome to First Things First. We have made it to Friday. I'm Jenna Wolfe. That's the Hall of Famer, Cris Carter. This is Nick Wright. Big show today. It's been a big show all week. In fact, spoiler alert, I'm always going to start the show by telling you that, but this one really is. Giannis and the Bucks locked up the best record in the NBA. LeBron's future with the Lakers now in turmoil, and apparently what happens in Green Bay doesn't always stay in Green Bay.
Great green dress.
Thank you.
And Nick's hair's
so
better on
much.
Friday, too. He's got some
Good stuff all around, apparently.
He's got something going up top.
Here we go. A recent report says the dysfunctional relationship between Aaron Rodgers and now former head coach Mike McCarthy held the Green Bay Packers franchise back from what could have been a Brady-Belichick level of success. In the report, stories of McCarthy's failure to update his offensive game plan, his lack of creative play calling, and his lack of accountability, including reports of missing team meetings to get massages. Now, Aaron Rodgers reportedly undercut McCarthy on the field and in public, and seemingly hasn't gotten over McCarthy passing him over in the 2005 NFL Draft when he was the Niners offensive coordinator. There was a lot in this article, Cris Carter. Some of it I'm sure you have heard stories of, but what was your reaction to the bulk of the report that came out about these two?
Well, first of all, we know that Aaron Rodgers, there's been a lot of things said about him and his personality as far as being sensitive, some of the other things that came out in the article. Now, as far as Mike McCarthy, we didn't hear as many things before this article came out. My own personal experience with Coach McCarthy is that in 2002, after the 2002 season, I was leaving Minnesota, and I was a potential free agent. So I was at the Super Bowl in New Orleans. Jim Haslett was the head coach in New Orleans. Mike McCarthy was the offensive coordinator. Hubbard Alexander, who was my wide receiver coach for several years in Minnesota, was the wide receiver coach. And he was trying to entice me to playing 1 or 2 more years and playing with the Saints at that time. So what we did was we did a little, it's not legal, but during the Super Bowl, they opened up their facility. I happened to be in the neighborhood, end up going meeting with the coaching staff, and I sat down with Mike McCarthy for a long time, watched film, and because I know in that situation, because Coach Haslett was the head coach there, him and I had gone because we had practiced against each other in the summer. So Haslett knew and was impressed with my football IQ, and they wanted to see if I wanted to come play there. I was very impressed with who he was as an offensive coordinator at that time.
Mike McCarthy.
Mike McCarthy, and he was one of the hottest coordinators in pro football, and it made me think about, even though New Orleans didn't have the situation for me as far as the chance to win a Super Bowl, which I was looking for in that last year or two, I was very impressed with what he knew football-wise. And Aaron Rodgers has been tough on the coaches, but in Green Bay, it's hard because of their structure. They're owned by it's a stock.
Community.
The community owns it. So is there really a voice outside of the president of the team that can really come down? So for me, the dysfunction is led by the way it's owned. And it starts from the top with me, so I'm not going to blame Aaron Rodgers more than the organization. Now, the organization, we don't mention them in there, but they're at fault because they didn't empower Mike McCarthy that he could be able to force Aaron to be able to learn different things. So when you don't have that power behind you, you are a coach that ultimately the player's going to have more power than you. So I don't like the structure, so I'm not going to blame Aaron Rodgers more so than I'm ever going to blame the organization because they drafted Aaron Rodgers. And they cultivated this community where they allowed Aaron Rodgers to be able to continue his behavior and not really put any pressure on him to grow offensively.
This was a remarkable story. And credit to Tyler Dunn of Bleacher Report for getting people on the record or on background to talk honestly about a decade of dysfunction. I didn't know that. I knew Aaron Rodgers held grudges. I didn't know he held grudges back to in 2005 when McCarthy was the coordinator for the Niners. He said, yeah, I think Alex Smith's better than Aaron Rodgers. He's been mad since then. Nobody comes out of this story looking good. Ted Thompson catches some bullets. Mike McCarthy certainly doesn't look good, and Aaron Rodgers does not look good either. The reason that, to me, it is very easy, though, to point one bigger finger than others at the GM and the coach is because the GM and the coach are not one of one in the world at what they do. And if you are blessed enough in your organization to have someone who is in the argument for most talented or best in the world at what they do, you bend over backwards to make them happy. Our boss, Keta, has a lot of actual technical responsibilities, a lot of things on his daily list. You know what his number one responsibility every single day is? Make sure Cris Carter's in a good place to succeed. Because even if that's not technically on his list of things, it all falls apart if Cris is not in a good place to succeed. I imagine Beyonce is a pain to go on tour with, is a pain to set things up. But when she gets out there, she performs. The stories about Christian Bale are legend, about on set, what a terror he can be. But he might be the best actor alive, so you deal with it.
Not that it makes any of that okay, though.
No, but it's reality. Would it be better if everyone was Tom Brady? I might be the best in the world, and I'm a great teammate, and you don't have to pay me that much, and I'll defer to the coach. Sure, but more often guys like that are more like LeBron. I'm going to be a little bit of a pain, and I'm going to be needy, and I'm going to be passive-aggressive. But you get me 82 games a year. This year, 55. But you get me, and so we're going to deal. Like, that is, the number one job of the Packers were to make sure Aaron Rodgers was happy with the Packers. And they failed at that.
Well, I'm going to totally disagree with you. And the reason why is because you came up with things that, yeah, the people, they might be the best at their business, but they're individuals. They're incorporating themselves. Now, if you decide to travel with Beyonce because Beyonce is the show, but we got the NFL. This is a league. We got a team. You got a locker room. You don't have no locker room in those other instances. And as far as the NBA and LeBron, you only got 11 other guys. So that personality can dominate it. But an NFL locker room, if we're going to continue to function as a football team, we can't run our business like them. We can't coddle the quarterback just because he's good. What about the left guard? He might be the best all time, so what do? We run the ball now 60 times because the left guard is dominant? Like, we could go through player after player that, oh, man, we got to create this system. No, it is a team. And everyone's got to be able to buy in the team to be able to get the best functionality out of the team. So, no, I totally disagree with you. And he's not Beyonce, all right? Like, we've had other Aaron Rodgers before. And the thing about Beyonce, if she makes a hit is it's not a Super Bowl trophy. Like, if you win, I mean, whatever, if you had a gold album,
Sure.
It's totally not the same. You can't make those comparisons because you have other personalities that the coach on every team is saying, you know something? We're going to treat guys alike. We're going to try to treat you like grown men. Well, you've been like, well, you're not treating him like no grown man. You're babysitting me, but you allow him to do whatever you want.
Right.
It will never, ever work, and that would be one of the problems why they only made one Super Bowl and why they didn't have a lot of success. That's why you see the peaks and valleys in what they did there in Green Bay.
There's a little chicken and egg when it comes to who's to blame here. Is it more the lack of creative play calling or the lack of sort of executing that lack of creative play calling?
Listen, as far as the play calling, too, I can only call what people know. So if you restrict me, which Aaron Rodgers did, he said, I don't want bunch formations. That means I don't want the wide receivers clustered in close to the quarterback because I can't see the blitzes if they're coming. So Aaron's admitting I can't see the blitzes unless they're way out wide. That hurts you as a quarterback because when the wide receivers are out wide, there's only so many combinations of routes and teams can book you and you become far more predictable. Not to cut you off,
No,
but that's
course.
very important.
And we're going to dive into much more of this, but just as a step back, one of the things that was mentioned in this article that is if the two gotten along a little bit better, had less of a dysfunctional relationship, they could have had the success the Patriots had. Do you see, like, was their path trending that way?
No, this is where the Ted Thompson part comes in. They haven't, the year they went 15-1, they had the 32nd ranked defense in football. That's remarkable. I saw that last night, couldn't believe it, double-checked it. They have never built the team the right way. They have the 1 year they've had a great defense, they won the Super Bowl. Since then, defense have been ranked 32nd, 11, 25, 15, 15, 22, 22, 18. And playoff losses for Aaron Rodgers. The defense has allowed 51, 37, 45, 44. Like, they had a double-digit lead in Seattle with 5 minutes left. The team blows it multiple times. Like, his frustration, to me, is warranted. Now, maybe he doesn't deal with it the right way, but they were never going to be the Patriots. They never had Belichick. They never had a full team.
They never had Tom Brady either.
Sure. But would you not agree that it's a little...
I know how the Patriots run their offensive meetings. I know Tom Brady runs most of those meetings. The reason why Tom Brady's been empowered to run those meetings, because Tom Brady knows as much football as anyone in the building. You know the reason why? Because Tom Brady submitted himself to learn more football. Tom Brady didn't know that when he got there. He didn't run that system when he was at Michigan. He wasn't even successful when he was at Michigan. But since he's been in the building, he said, you know what? You guys can teach me about football. So which in turn, they've turned the responsibility over to him that now that he can teach. Aaron Rodgers ain't teaching no classes in Green Bay because his football knowledge is limited. All
right, we're going to talk much more about this coming up. But on the other side, let's talk some basketball. Do Giannis and the Bucks have enough talent to make a run at a title? It's next on FS1. You can always check us out on the Fox Sports channel on SiriusXM. We're back right after this. Back here, First Things First, in just a few hours, live in studio, WWE superstar and executive VP of Talent, Live Events and Creative, Paul Triple H Levesque will be with us 9 a.m. WrestleMania is on Sunday. We got plenty to discuss with him. You're not going to want to miss it. Stay tuned. All right, we'll get to Giannis and the Bucks in just a second, but first, some highlights presented by Hilton. Warriors-Lakers, Steph Curry gets the steal, behind the back, full court pass to KD for the easy slam.
Showtime is back in L.A. Oh, we didn't know the Warriors were going to be bringing it. They thought Magic, man, when they hired Magic, bring back Showtime, Magic. Okay, no problem, it's on its way.
The degree of difficulty on that pass, and it was pinpoint.
Same game, Alex Caruso rises above everyone for the putback jam that has everyone in shock, including LeBron.
Oh, you read his lips. GD. Yeah.
Alex Caruso, an athlete now. Our stats guy Dusty been trying to tell us about him ever since he was at A&M. I dismissed him at first. He's right. Caruso can fly. Look at him. Don't let the bald head fool you.
Huh. To the NCAA dunk contest, 5'8" Southeastern Louisiana guard Marlon Veal gets thrown off the ground over 3 people.
I'm not into
for the slam.
Come on, Nick.
I'm not into this.
That's the only way we can get you above the rim, though. What do you want us to do?
Who's you?
Wait, why don't you like this?
It's going to take me and someone else to get you above the rim.
For me?
Yes.
Monday morning, I'm bringing in the highlights.
What is not to love about that?
I'm not so talking about my high school basketball career, but I'm going to bring in the clip
You have some highlights?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, you have one highlight. You have one in-game dunk?
I have one in-game dunk in my life.
Let's check it out. Let's see it first.
Well,
I didn't get picked up like that guy.
Well, we haven't seen it yet.
A lot of lower body explosive strength there. Moving on to the biggest game of the night. Thank you. Bucks taking on the Sixers. Giannis making a strong last push for MVP. The Greek Freak going off 45 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, not to mention 4 blocks on the most unstoppable player, Joel Embiid. Milwaukee won 128-122 to lock up the top seed in the East. Nick, what did Giannis and the Bucks show us in their win over Embiid and the Sixers?
And they did it without their second or third best player, depending on how you rank Middleton and Bledsoe, with Bledsoe being kicked out minutes into the game. Mm-hmm. What they showed us is what the data has shown us all year. This is the exact profile of not just a championship contender, but an elite championship team. They check every box. 60-plus wins, check. The overall #1 seed, check. The probable league MVP, check. Super elite on both ends of the court. Top 3 offense, #1 defense.
And also shooting the 3 and defending the 3.
They are as good as any team in the league at that, and they have a legitimate home court and a veteran coach. That is, for all of NBA history, you need about 5 of those 7. They have all 7 of them.
Can I throw one other then?
Sure.
Health.
Well, so the health is a question mark. But the guys they have had the injuries to, aside from Brogdon, aren't what I would call the key contributors. Now, I know Mirotic was a guy they were happy they got at the deadline, but they were killing people before they added Mirotic. And aside from DiVincenzo, they think any or all of those guys potentially could be back come the conference finals.
I think because the roles they play, Jenna, those injuries become the most important issue, because that's one of the other things that makes this team special. If we want to project all the way through the Eastern Conference and into the finals, the reason why they would have a chance is not just because of those stats. It's because the players that they have. It's just not, oh, they got one of the guys. Mirotic, we believe, and has proven himself in playoff series to be an effective shooter and to be able to space the court. And when you look at who their star is and what those other guys bring to open up the court for him, That's why those injuries, you have to look, they're not on that list as far as positives, but it is the most important thing. If you ask the question about the Milwaukee Bucks now is how healthy will they be? Because if they're healthy, they are definitely the best team in the East.
And they've got a winning record against everybody. Winning record against Indiana, Boston, Philly, Toronto, all those teams. Those are the teams that will play in the second and third round, two of those three teams. 2-0 against Houston, 2-0 against Denver. They split the season series with Golden State. So there's not any team that they could play in a playoff series where they could be tested, because in the first round they won't be tested. They already have a winning record against those teams. If it were not the Kevin Durant, Boogie Cousins, Steph, Clay Warriors, we would say the Bucks are the big favorites. They would be the big favorites. They have the profile of the Rockets team last year, but with more depth and with a player less reliant on the whistle. Now, that's not shade on James Harden, but James Harden, one of the buts about him going into a postseason is, will the whistle change? And last night, Giannis hit some threes. And if he hits threes, there's no guarding him. None whatsoever. Now, I don't think he's typically going to hit threes. He's around 22% on the year. Well, last night he shot 7 of them, made 3, which makes him totally unguardable.
Yeah, the one thing, though, too, is it's not only making the threes, but shooting the threes. Because there were times that Philadelphia backed off of him, played them, dared him to shoot. Now, for me, it's not a percentage thing with me. It's about how many attempts. Because if he's shooting, because he's so different than any other superstar we have, he can get to the bucket. His mid-range games are strong. But his post-up, that's the most surprising part of his game to me. Like, I thought eventually he'd be able to shoot effectively, which he's doing, but his post-up and how strong he is. Like, they had to put Joel Embiid to try to quiet him down. So, man, it's amazing to watch his overall development, and I'm surprised by how much his game has grown.
See, he bullied Ben Simmons again. Remember when they played the last time he called Ben Simmons a baby or something when he put him down on the block? We were talking about it this morning. In the fourth quarter, about midway through the fourth, he takes him down on the baseline, and Ben Simmons is a big guy. The criticisms of Ben Simmons are not about his body or his strength. And Giannis just 3 separate times drops a shoulder or elbow into him to get space to then dunk on him. Like, Giannis's development of his strength has made him into, he was a fringe MVP candidate last year. It's the body that has made him now the MVP favorite after a night like last night.
Not to be negative, Nelly, but I am worried about that ankle. It has now flared up twice already. You just want to make sure that he is strong and he's good as they hit the playoffs.
Well, he won't have to play again this year if he doesn't want to, because now they locked up the 1 seed. So in that regard, that helps them.
Okay, but let's talk about the other side with the Sixers. Are you concerned after what you saw last night that this team isn't playoff ready?
No, I'm not concerned last night's game. They were shorthanded. Jimmy Butler wasn't in the game. And this game coming down, it's a possession here or there. You know, if they get a couple stops late in the game, make a couple threes late in the game, Philadelphia can win this game. So, no, I'm not going to overreact to last night's game. But, you know, to me, they have some obvious problems. J.J. Redick, I thought, was sensational last night. The offense that they're starting to try to run for him to get him some open looks, because it's going to help Joel Embiid. But still, I'm going to be consistent. Ben Simmons, he's a problem. When you have more turnovers in your point guard, you have more turnovers than you have field goals, it's going to be a problem. Only took 5 shots last night. After playing, 30 minutes? 36 minutes? 5 shots? So now, what type of confidence is he going to have coming into the playoffs, shooting the basketball? So, to me, ongoing theme, their point guard, I believe that he hinders them as far as being one of the elite teams.
So I obviously am not as concerned about the Ben Simmons part of this, because to me last night was not about a lack of offense. They scored 122 points. Last night they allowed 72 second-half points and 46 in the fourth quarter. C's point that also they didn't have one of their best players in Jimmy Butler. They've only played 10 games with their starting 5. The starting 5 that's supposed to be one of the best in the league: Tobias Harris, Jimmy Butler, Ben Simmons, Joel Embiid, and J.J. Redick.
Just 10 games together.
Now they're 8-2 in those 10, but they're going to go into the playoffs not really having a feel for each other. Where the playoffs will help them, I believe, is if you don't have a ton of depth, that is not as big of a deal come the postseason, because in the playoffs, Embiid's not going to be playing 36. He's going to be playing 40. And Tobias Harris isn't going to be playing 30. He's going to be playing 36. So everybody's bench shrinks. You need Mike Scott coming off the bench, and you need one other guy. They got Zaire Smith, the rookie who hadn't played most of the year. He's getting back into the rotation. But The East is very, very strong. And in the second round, there's going to be 2 good teams that go home. Philly right now would be an underdog against Toronto, who they play in the second round. They would need Ben Simmons not only to play well, but Embiid and Butler to be great.
Yeah, one of the big issues when you don't have a bench is you can't sustain any injury.
Right.
All right. So, and there's very few teams going to go through the playoffs because it's too intense. You do sustain injuries. But I'd much rather Joel Embiid be playing 36, 34 minutes like Giannis has been playing compared to pushing him to 40 minutes in the playoffs. And the reason why you do is like the short guy. You know, some height's overrated. Oh, a good bench is overrated, you know, because you don't have one.
Right.
And that's Philly's excuse.
All right, we got to take a break. Coming
and
up.
Nick's making it for him.
There's more finger-pointing going on out west. Has Magic Johnson derailed LeBron's quest for another title? That's next on First Things First. On Sunday, we head to Bristol for some bumping and grinding on the short track at the Coliseum. The green flag drops at 2 Eastern on FS1 and the Fox Sports app. Time for us to go viral. So last night, Giannis and the Bucks got the best of the 76ers. However, there was a special guest in the house for Philly. Check this out. The $330 million man, new Phillies outfielder Bryce Harper, did not get booed, had the honor of ringing the bell before the game.
Let me hear it. Come on. How are you going to do, Bryce? Come on.
Bam.
Well done. It's well done. It's a quality bell ringing.
Didn't even crack it.
You're putting a grade on it?
I'm just letting you. I wanted to see it. I saw when you said there was a special guest in the building, and I saw that picture there. I was like, oh, AI was there. But no, it's Bryce Harper. He's dapping up right there.
Yes, and Bryce Harper wearing number 3 in Philadelphia. That's a big deal. Iverson.
Of course.
And then also Carson Wentz and him sat in the box watching the Sixers play. So
nice.
Big night in Philadelphia.
Good stuff. All right.
This show will be in Philadelphia for some weekend playoff games. Chris and I making some plans. Jenner, you
Don't
should
be
come
telling
as well.
people in Philly, man. Last time you there, we almost got beat up.
I'm popular in Philly with the basketball fans. The football fans don't like me as much. Basketball fans, I'm good with them.
Oh, yeah. He believes Ben Simmons has a beautiful jump.
I didn't say that.
Time for your AT&T wake-up call. Final Four tips off tomorrow. Auburn taking on Virginia, and then Texas Tech battles Michigan State. C, who do you like to make the finals?
Ooh.
Woo, okay, right from the top. You know, Coach Izzo, he's got me a little slanted towards him. Now, the defense that they're going to face is going to be second to none in Texas Tech. I look for the Spartans to be able to get through. And Virginia, the last several years, one of the most talented teams in college basketball, haven't reached their potential. I really like their coach. Believe he's underrated, gets a lot of criticism. So I like Virginia to be able to get through.
I like Virginia to get through as well. Sports very often works in storylines. The Spurs lose a championship on the Ray Allen shot and then lose Game 7 the next year, come back and win it. Virginia, first 1 seed to ever lose to a 16 the following year, make it all the way to the championship game. I think they will. The other game, to me, is as close as it can get. Jarrett Culver will be the best player on the court in the Michigan State-Texas Tech game, but Zion was the best player on the court, and Michigan State won. I like the same final as you, the 2 favorites, Michigan State and Virginia, matching up Monday night.
All right, moving on to Zion, as you mentioned, who won't be playing in the Final Four this weekend. His focus has shifted to counting money. A former Nike and Adidas executive said he expects Zion to land a $100 million shoe deal. CC, is Zion worth all that money before ever playing a single game in the NBA?
Well, if you look at the hype surrounding him, if you're a shoe company and you're in the business of signing stars, you can't predict what's going to be coming out of college basketball the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. Yeah, you got to get him signed. Based on the competition, now I don't believe he's as marketable as LeBron was and or Jordan, the best ever merchandising ever in the history of anything. He will never rival that, but man, you got to be able to get him in your shoes, especially after the blowout.
Yeah.
Man, he blew out the shoe with the Nike. Man, if you are another company and you can snatch him away from Nike, it would be a huge get.
You laughed at me when I said he's going to pass LeBron, but not when you adjust for inflation. That's exactly what's going to happen. LeBron was 7 years, $87 million from Nike, coming straight out of high school. I think Zion's going to be 8 years, $100 million, and I think it's going to be Nike. I know there are some rumors. There's going to be the Chinese shoe company that gets in.
Yep.
Man, Zion's not Klay Thompson. He's going Nike or he's going Adidas. My guess is that Nike pays a premium to get him after that shoe got blown out, which was a Nike, but he's going to get $100 million.
All right, let's move on to the Boston Celtics now. Boston's season has been tumultuous at times, but Kyrie Irving says there is nothing to worry about. commenting that his relationship with Brad Stevens has grown tremendously. So, Nick, are the Celtics a real threat in the East?
I don't think they're a real threat, and we'll see how he feels after tonight. Tonight, the 4 seeds on the line. Boston and Indiana play each other. They are right now tied in the standings. Indiana wins. They basically lock up that 4 seed, which would mean Boston would start the playoffs on the road. Could they win a first-round series? Yes. Do I think Boston is a threat to beat Milwaukee in the second round? Absolutely not. And if this Boston team's 1 and done or even 2 and done in the playoffs, then all those good feelings go away immediately. Kyrie has said, I'm just waiting for the playoffs. For his sake, you hope that playoff experience is a long one. I don't think it will be.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that the relationship is growing, just like any other relationship. In the second year, in the first year, really, what kind of sample did we have with Kyrie being hurt? Now they face some real adversity. And even if the relationship's not improving, man, I'm glad he's saying that. That's what you should say.
Yeah, lie to the people.
Absolutely.
Chris is a big fan of that. If you need to lie, lie to the people.
Yeah, nobody wants to hear the truth.
All right, let's end with James Harden. The Beard is averaging over 36 points a game to go along with 6.5 rebounds, 7.5 assists. Not a bad resume for what could be back-to-back MVP seasons. But with his crafty step-backs, his never-ending foul shots, many wondering if it's how the game should be played. Case in point, announcer Don McLean.
I just feel like, Ralph, this style, what Harden does is manipulating the game somehow, like almost like cheating it somehow. And I don't really have a thought beyond that other than I'm watching something that isn't basketball. Like, to me, basketball is player movement, ball movement, design plays, not just a guy walking it up and isolating every time. And I just feel like and that's why I brought up that point earlier, that who else could do this? It's not like he's, it's not like within the system he's getting all these numbers. The system is built for him.
All right, Nick, what do you make of what Don McLean said?
Well, credit Don McLean. If he knows about cheating the game in basketball, he is one of the experts. The first player in NBA history who was suspended for steroids, but that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about what he actually is saying there, which is, I just don't like it. It doesn't fit my sensibilities, what basketball should be. I don't have much else to say. I just don't like it. That is the honest opinion of most James Harden critics. Just don't like it. I'll tell you this. I like watching Russell Westbrook more than I like watching Steph Curry. I find Russell's style far more entertaining and exciting. But that doesn't make me come on television and be like, man, Steph Curry's not, he's kind of cheating, like shoot from 35 feet. That's not what I grew up watching in basketball. You have to respect the skill that Harden has perfected. Daryl Morey came on this show over a year ago and said, I believe James Harden is the best one-on-one isolation player ever. That's no longer even a controversial opinion. I think a lot of people believe James Harden's the best isolation player ever. The team wins when he plays this style. Their season was on the brink of disaster until they went with a Harden exclusive offense. But the real criticism of Harden is exactly that. It's an aesthetic one. It's not an effective criticism. It is just, to my eye, I don't like it. And Don McLean made the subtext text there in acknowledging that's the only real criticism of Harden right now.
Yeah, he really couldn't go deep and explain it. Now, he's an accomplished basketball player. You mentioned the time he was suspended, first player suspended for taking steroids. Now, he was a movement player. He was a jump shot player, so he wasn't very, very athletic, even though he played, I think, double-digit years in the NBA. So, first of all, let me explain his game and the reason why, aesthetically, it might not be pleasing to him. It's because he's about movement. He's going to be more effective playing on a team that's going to move the ball, people picking for him so he can get his shot off. So, I understand that. And he's got a right to his opinion. So it's not a matter of being right or wrong. Now, he said it. This is just my opinion. I can't give you a deep dive on examples. Typically, if I have a strong opinion, I try to give you some examples of the reason why I believe that. Now, the reason why I believe opposite of him is because the game of basketball is about scoring the basketball and stopping them from scoring the basketball, no matter how you can do it. The reason why they put the three-point line on the basketball court was so that you could open up the court and be able to take advantage of the skill set that we see people. Now, I'm not from the camp of Nick. There's no way if I'm paying money, I'm going to see Steph Curry play compared to Russell. So it is a style preference thing, too. Both of them effective. James Harden is one of the great scorers that we've ever seen. And all the great scorers, for the most part, you know what they were? Isolation players. Now, this is the first time they have allowed someone to dominate the ball as much as him and still be in isolation. But the greatest player ever, Michael Jordan, up and down, yes. But isolation at the end of the day, that's how Michael Jordan really got his name. Kobe Bean Bryant, isolation player. James Harden is just an extension of them. And where he was wrong about the system, no, this system wasn't created for him. He was put in to D'Antoni's system that was very effective. Nash was MVP. They put up great numbers. But Harden in the system, they said, you know something? We're going to change the system a little bit because this guy is so special. So the system has evolved around Harden's ability to, you know something? I'm going to lift weights to make sure that I can still have the endurance late in games. I'm going to work on my ball handling. I'm going to work on finishing at the rim. All those things that the announcer should give him credit for because he has mastered those skills.
It's what makes it more impressive to me is that he hasn't had an entire system built around him, but they have changed the system, the D'Antoni system, to perfectly show his individual skill set. You know what other team did that this year? The Milwaukee Bucks on defense. The Milwaukee Bucks built an entire defensive system, took Bud's system, tweaked it entirely, built around a singular talent, Giannis, his skills defensively, the way he can move on the court, his length, what he can do. When you bend a system to your abilities, that shows how great of a player you are. And the effectiveness of isolation basketball, if you have a great isolation player and 4 shooters, it's about as efficiently of a way you can play offensive basketball. Now, it's not as pretty as the Warriors' ball movement passing system. I understand that. But the reason that this irked me, and I think other people, is because he used the word, it's like he's cheating the game. He's not cheating the game. He has hacked the system to a degree. He has figured out a way to exploit freedom of movement, 3 being worth more than 2, modern NBA basketball more than anyone else. And if other people could do it, they would do it. No one in the league's averaging more than 28, except for him who's averaging 36. And his team right now could be the 2 seed in the West. Like, there's no argument against the effectiveness of it.
All right, let's move on to the Lakers and the tumultuous year that has been their season. With LeBron missing the playoffs for the first time in 14 years, focus has shifted to the future. Who will be the next head coach? Which big name will free agent pair with the King? And are the beaches in L.A. really that nice? A lot of probing questions. One NBA scout has ripped the Lakers' future, saying Magic has destroyed that place. CC, do you agree? Magic Johnson, you trust him, rather, to restore the Lakers?
Well, this is the thing. And I've been knowing Magic a long time, since I was a kid. Got a lot of respect for him. He's had tremendous amount of success. But I question the ability to build what we would call success in Los Angeles with Magic. Now, if there was other supporting cast around Magic, Jenny Buss, is she capable of being an owner? Well, I mean, what do you have to be capable of doing? Because she's the one that hired Magic. So she's the one hired him. She can't make the basketball decisions. So Magic's got to make all the basketball decisions. So do I think him and Rob Pelinka are out there pounding the pavement, looking for that little bit of an edge that, you know something, this is going to get us over? No. Do I think that their basketball philosophy is transcendent to the NBA? No. Am I concerned? Hell yeah. If I'm a Lakers fan, I would be concerned because it's not just the big-time free agents. It's the glue. It's the knowing the salary cap, little intricacies that, you know, we can get this player for this, you know, that we can put this guy on this type of contract. Those type of things win you a championship. Now, he's going to be under the microscope, but nothing has happened. And I knew LeBron was coming to L.A. no matter who was there, okay? LeBron was coming to the Lakers, so no one can take credit for that. I've been concerned from the beginning that all these little small things that LeBron, in both places, that being the second trip to Cleveland and his first trip to Miami, he had people take care of those things for him. And people wanted to join LeBron because the system and how they were playing. Right now, there ain't nobody taking no reduced salary to join the Lakers and LeBron. But that was critical in Cleveland winning that championship. Those players who, at the end, you know something? Man, I will go there. Ray Allen.
Certainly critical in Miami.
I mean, man, and the chemistry that they had there, the faith they had in the front office. No, Jenna, I'm so sorry. I hate to do it, but I'm concerned. As a Lakers fan, I'm concerned. As someone who watches the NBA and know that those little things are very, very important.
Cris was concerned before LeBron and the Lakers were ever attached. The day the Lakers hired Magic Johnson, Cris and I were both living in L.A. at the time. Didn't even know you yet, Jenna.
Yeah, not living together, but living together.
Oh, correct. You're right. Not living together. I spent a lot of time at his place, a little nicer than mine. Spent a lot of time at his place. But I remember when it happened. And Cris said, man, Magic is a great face of a business. But that doesn't mean he's in the weeds on these businesses. That doesn't mean he's the detail guy. And so when you hire Magic, it's one thing. I think he could be. Pat Riley's a really sharp guy, but let me take Miami for a moment. Pat Riley, in addition to being a sharp guy, is the face. Then they got a guy named Andy Ellsberg, who's the brains of that operation. Their cap guy. They also have people that came up like Spo did to do the basketball analytics. Absolutely.
Another basketball, big time guy that understands the ins and outs of the NBA, that they have his ear.
Your guy, Danny Ainge, is the face of the operation in Boston. You know who the brains are? It's Mike Zarin. No. It's Mike Zarin. It's rare that my pal in Houston, Daryl, he's maybe not always the best public face of the operation, but he's the face and the brains of the operation. But even he has a guy named Garrison Rosas who might go become a GM somewhere this year. So the Magic's not going to be on the hot seat. But maybe Rob Pelinka is, because you have redundancy there. You have two guys who would be very good forward faces and nobody in the weeds doing the work. Could the Lakers this offseason go say, hey, Mike Zarin, you want to be our GM? Hey, Gerson Rosas, you want to be our GM? Magic's still going to be team president, because Rob Pelinka and Magic fill the same role. Relationship guy, good-looking guy, charming guy that can get you in the room with anybody. Rob, because of his relationships being an agent, being Kobe's former agent, and Magic because he's Magic bleeping Johnson. Like, all that makes sense. But who is doing the work? Because even if the Lakers trade, let's say they trade for Anthony Davis, well, they're going to have a whole roster to build. They're going to be trading away all their young guys.
Right. And I'm just saying, too, the latest evidence, the trade of the big man of the Lakers and what they did to
Zubats. The Zubats.
This is criminal.
Just real quick, it's anecdotal, but it's important. It was after they had already been criticized for all these bad offseason moves. $32 million combined for Rondo, KCP, Beasley, and JaVale. That disaster that was. At the deadline, they think we're going to make a playoff push. We need to open a roster spot. They could just waive Michael Beasley. He had tried to fight the coach.
Yes.
So you could just waive him. Instead, they call the Clippers unprompted and say, we'll give you Zubats if you'll take Beasley along with him, and we want Mike Muscala because we're going to add shooting. It was essentially a Zubats for Muscala trade. Are you kidding me? The Clippers, Jerry West talked about it. I guess what was reported, he talked about it, that he went to dinner the next night and said, you won't believe it. I didn't even call the Lakers. They called me, offered me something. I just said yes and hung up the phone. Like, those types of things, who is the smart guy there?
Right.
And I'm not saying those guys aren't smart, but who's the smart guy? I don't know.
All right, we're going to break there. Coming up, did Giannis lock up the MVP last night? That's still ahead on First Things First. Back here, First Things First, we're joined by former All-Pro running back Brian Westbrook. Good morning, Brian. Happy Friday to you. Good to have you here.
Yeah, Eagles green on today.
Yeah, you get a little fresh haircut there.
Yeah, I needed it.
Okay, all right.
Time to get fresh. Trying to be like you, CC.
Oh, you're trying to get ready for the weekend.
Be careful now.
That's the weekend.
No need for that.
Hey, Brian, the Rams had one of the most high-powered offenses in the league last year. We probably mentioned that at least 300 times all season long, but putting up just 3 points in this Super Bowl 53 and handing the Patriots. Their 6th Super Bowl title has left a bad taste in their mouths. Rams All-Pro offensive tackle Andrew Woodworth coming back for his 14th season to answer the team's biggest question: how can we respond? All right, Brian, what's going to be the biggest challenge facing the Rams? Usually we talk about hangovers from a winning team coming back the next season. You know about a losing team trying to come back the next season and compete and do it better. You're laughing.
That hurts when you say it. I do know about
That's
that.
why I asked you if anyone's
hurts.
going to be able to talk about it. Let me just wear my eagle green and then ask you. So
I'm just right in the knife to the gut right when he gets here.
Start me early.
Guys played in the NFL. All you
All right.
talk about are being tough guys.
Well, here's the thing. I mean, to play at that level, championship level, to get to the Super Bowl, it's just hard to do repeatedly, especially if you're not rewarded. If you're not rewarded, you didn't win that game. And I think the Rams have to take their play to the next level. They have to go to the next level if they want to even get back. Teams in their division are getting better. San Fran's getting better. I think Seattle will come back even stronger next year. So they're going to have a harder road to get to that same point. I think the Rams have a couple issues. They lost a couple offensive linemen in the offseason. And the health of Todd Gurley is probably their biggest concern. How do they keep him healthy? When you talk about what Todd was able to do all season long, obviously one of the best running backs in the league all season, playoff, the most important time of the season, he wasn't available. He just didn't get it done in the last 2 games of the season, and that's why they ended up losing the way they did it.
Todd Gurley is the engine that makes that offense work. Sean McVay does a lot of window dressing, does a lot of fancy stuff pre-snap, talks to his quarterback longer than any other. Okay, great. What you have is the best running back in football. And I saw a video of him, courtesy of our friends at TMZ last night, limping to his car. A guy who we are now in the April 5th, and his knee does not appear, he doesn't appear healthy just walking around. The reports that he has an arthritic condition in his knee, that ain't great.
Yeah.
Like, that is as concerning to me as any offseason storyline there is. This is a great young player, worthy of his draft, right? I mean, worthy of his draft status, worthy of that contract, worthy to be considered as a running back league MVP. And we're 3 months removed from the last football game and he's limping around? That's, to me, the biggest concern. Bigger concern than Goff in year 4, bigger concern than replacing the talent that's going to leave on defense is what about Todd Gurley's knee? And would we have had a different Super Bowl if Todd Gurley was Todd Gurley?
The reason why the Rams are so explosive down the field, and just put it on teams offensively, because they average 139 yards rushing every single game. They're able to run the ball at will. Todd Gurley's able to catch the ball out of the backfield. Then they use their play-action pass to get down the field to the receivers, and they continue to beat up on teams that way because teams had to respect Todd Gurley. You're talking about the last 2 games. C.J. Anderson and Todd Gurley combined for 111 yards rushing in the last 2. This is a team that averaged 139 yards per game. They just weren't able to do it physically in the run game. The other thing is this. When you're talking about a team that throws the ball the way that they did, teams said, okay, listen, this is what we're going to do. We're going to allow you to run the ball a little bit. We're not going to suck up on the play-action pass, and we're going to make you nickel and dime us all the way down the field. Jared Goff, Tom, and McVay, they were not willing to do that. They were impatient at times, and their offense suffered because of that.
Well, let's talk about the last game we saw. You talked about the last couple games, their inability to be able to run the football. That's against the Patriots in Super Bowl 53, and then an NFC Championship game against the Saints. It seemed like later in the season, teams had them booked offensively and defensively and were ready for the Rams' attack. So huge concerns about Todd Gurley. My concern is with McVay, and what type of adjustments will they make defensively? Because in the Super Bowl, they didn't have a linebacker that started that weighed more than 230 pounds. And Sean McVay, everyone likes him and everything. Man, nice, young coach. He got out-coached in that Super Bowl because Bill Belichick looked at his roster and said, Corey Littleton, 228 pounds. We're going to run at him. Mark Barron, he was a safety at Alabama. And with the Rams earlier, we're going to run the ball right down their throat. Right over in Ndamukong Suh and Aaron Donald. Aaron Donald, 20 sacks during the regular season, no sacks in the playoffs. So those are adjustments that I'm looking for the Rams to try to be able to have to make. And now they got that first place schedule. They got a lot of eyeballs on them. How will they react? Last year they reacted free agency. People was like, oh, man, this locker room, They did well as far as that. But they have to be able to make some adjustments. If Todd Gurley is not 100%, and I doubt that we're ever going to see the Todd Gurley that we did, that's why you see him limping at this point. I do believe that he has a arthritic knee, and guys don't recover from that. So now what will Sean McVay do with Jared Goff? But that defense, you got to get bigger. Because in the biggest game that you played, Belichick out-coached you, out-schemed you by simplifying the game. Is I'm bigger, I'm stronger than you. We're going to fight this game in a phone booth, and that's how the Patriots won.
To win in the playoffs, you have to be able to run the football and stop the run. They weren't able to do either. I battled a bad knee my entire career. I tore my ACL in '96, and I know it doesn't get better as you get older. It gets harder and harder every single week to get out there and play. It gets harder and harder to participate and help your team. I'm concerned about Todd Gurley.
Can I just ask you this? We know how competitive the division's going to be, and yes, they're going to have a first-place schedule this year. But there's got to be an emotional toll, bless you. There's got to be an emotional toll it takes on you when you worked so hard to get to the Super Bowl, you came up short, and now you got to all go back to the starting point and try it all over again, and you have really nothing to show for it except that you got there. I mean, how hard is that?
That's what you were talking about. It's hard to start a new season over no matter what. Yeah. But when you have as long of a season as you can have, work as hard as you can work, and it doesn't get paid off. In fact, instead of it being paid off, you deal with the most crushing loss of your athletic life, to then come in, okay, it's August 1st, how's training camp?
Well, you're right. That's the absolute hard part, because you're saying, hey, my body's already tired. I've lost a month of extra time that I can rest, and then I have to work just as hard, probably a little bit harder, because just like you mentioned, they're going to get one of the hardest schedules in the league this season. It's going to be a tough task for them. It's going to depend on Sean McVay to get this team ready. Jared Goff is going to have to carry him just a little bit more than he did.
I believe that they'll bounce back, too, because look on the other side of the story. The glass is more than half full. There's only one team had a better season than us, and that's the team that were the world champions. The season before, they've made great progress getting into the playoffs, winning a playoff game, going on the road, beating the Saints. Huge go. And most of their core players are younger players, so they got a lot to look forward to. So expect the Rams to be there. They just have to make the adjustments that need to be made when you lose the Super Bowl, which other teams haven't responded great to in years past.
All right, Brian, we'll see you a little bit later on in the show. Take a break. Coming up, did Giannis and the Bucks prove they can make a title run with their win over the Sixers last night? That is next. This is First Things First. Welcome back to First Things First. Triple H, one of the biggest stars in the history of professional wrestling, from his run as a co-founder of D-Generation X to his epic battles with the likes of The Rock, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Undertaker, John Cena. The 14-time world champion has been synonymous with WWE for nearly 3 decades. We are lucky to be joined by Paul Triple H Levesque now. Paul, thanks so much.
Thank you. It all sounds awesome until you get to the 3 decades part. Then
I know, I meant
old,
to.
Right? Like,
that's why I kind of mumbled over that part. 3 decades is a long time. How much has changed?
Thank you for making it worse.
Yes, I'm going to emphasize the point now. How much has changed since you broke onto the scene?
Everything.
Yeah?
Yeah, just everything from the start of it to the way fans interact. You know, the internet has changed all of that. It's really 24/7 now. They're into your lives and everything. But just the business itself, from where we are as a company, from how we relate and take care of our talent, to our wellness policies, to our just every component of it. The performers are professionals. Every aspect of what they do has been raised to another level of professionalism, and you see that across the board, and it's carried over into everything we do with our partners. NBCU, Fox Sports, you know, I mean,
sure.
It's now just, it's where it should be.
Now, Paul, you have a unique perspective, because being involved in 3 different decades, like you've seen it evolve, not only from being right there as one of the stars, one of the they're founding it on you and your ability, but now you're on the business side. So give me a little bit, what's changed from the athletic side of things, and then now you're trying to transfer, you're putting on a total different hat on the business side, and that typically with athletes, we struggle trying to manage that, transitioning over.
You know, I always had a fascination with the behind the scenes of the business, even when I was a performer, and what it took and what it would take you to do to get to that next level. For me, I've watched that transition, as you said, from starting out at WrestleMania. I wasn't there, but as a fan, watching WrestleMania 1, closed circuit television, Madison Square Garden, to where we are now, you know, stadium shows. You know, it transitioned from closed circuit to pay-per-view to doing stadium shows on our own OTT network, the WWE network, and you can watch WrestleMania this Sunday or NXT TakeOver tonight from the Barclays Center on our WWE network on any device you have, a phone, a computer, your television. It doesn't matter. You can stream it to anywhere. That transition has been amazing. But for me to be on the business side of it now, trying to find that next level of athlete. When I started in the business, there was no path to get to the WWE. It was like saying, I want to be a trapeze artist. Where do you start?
Right.
My job now, a big part of it, is trying to give that path to people, to go to every country around the world and look for athletes, whether they come from kabaddi or kushti or something in India, to whether they're martial artists around the world or Olympic athletes or strongman. It doesn't matter. We're looking everywhere for them and giving them that pathway and opportunity to come to the WWE, training them out of our performance center in Orlando and turning them into the superstars of tomorrow. And that systematic plan has been the biggest change, probably fundamentally, in our business.
And we're going to talk more about the NXT part of your guys' business in a moment, but I don't want people to be fooled now. That picture that we have right there, I don't know when that picture was taken, but they're going to be taking a similar picture here at WrestleMania. We were talking off the air, in addition to being the business side of things, I mean, you're fighting Batista at WrestleMania, so you have to also be training twice a day, you said, to get ready for that. Tell us about what you expect in that match. While you're kind of his boss, but I don't think he's going to care in the moment in the no-holds-barred match at WrestleMania.
No, it might make it worse. How do you really prepare to step into the ring with Drax the Destroyer from Guardians of the Galaxy, right? It's a difficult thing, but Batista and I have a long history. He's one of the most physical guys in the business, and to your point, I wear a suit on a daily basis now, stay in shape, but to get ready for something like getting in the ring with Dave in front of 75,000 people at MetLife Stadium this Sunday, it's a whole different level of preparation. And I'm coming off of an injury at the end of last year where I tore my pec in the Middle East, and trying to come back from that when you're closing in on 50 and at the tail end of it. And at this point, the opportunity for me to step in front of our fans on that level, there's no experience like it in the world. I don't care what else you do. The energy, the excitement, if you step into MetLife Stadium on Sunday, you can cut that tension with a knife, that feel, that palpable energy, there's nothing else like our fan base in the world.
Paul, you saw how excited I got when in the commercial break. You did say you work out.
You did. I thought you were going to start doing burpees on the floor.
No, I almost did, but
that was last
it's
week.
in my contract that I'm no longer allowed to when you're in the room. But I will tell you, it is exciting to know that for the first time, a women's match will be the main event of WrestleMania. You have Ronda Rousey, you have Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch will all be competing to take home 2 championship belts. How important are women to the future now of the WWE?
Massive. You can't state it enough. They are every bit as important as everybody else. And that's the thing to me, I think, to even say the women versus the men now.
Right.
I wish we just say superstars, because they're all equal. It's what the biggest event is. What's the biggest match? What's the biggest promotional element? Because the athleticism, the heart, the desire, everything they put into it is the same. And as the world has become more accepting of female athletes and their place in the world, WWE has been able to step into that because we've had the athletes there ready to go, and our male talent are supportive of them, which is the key. Mm-hmm. They've embraced it. As much as they want to be the main event this Sunday at WrestleMania, you see these guys saying, well, look, I want to be the main event, but they deserve to be the main event.
Just as a quick follow-up, how important is it for you? Because you're out there recruiting the talent.
Yeah.
I mean, you're picking the groceries. So you're out there, you're in control of that. How important is it for you that we see some type of balance as far as the male and the female?
It's massive. When I first started that process with our developmental system, even in NXT, I didn't understand. It just was foreign to me, the difference. Why are we training women differently? Why are we doing this differently? I want to recruit athletes that can do this better than anybody else. I want the same charisma, the same dedication, the same professionalism that the men have. We're going to train them the exact same way, and then we're just going to give them a platform. And when we've given them that platform, they've knocked it out of the park every single time. I more often than not watch an NXT, Raw, SmackDown, WrestleMania. I more often than not watch the guys watching the women's match match going, I'm going to have to step it up
That's
tomorrow.
great.
You know what I mean?
Well, let's talk more about NXT TakeOver if people aren't familiar or as familiar with it. There's 7 tonight. It's 7 Eastern, I should say, on WWE Network. It's become, I would say, right there on the business side of things for you, a huge part of your legacy. Like,
Yes.
some people always know you as Triple H and the pedigree and all of that. But on the business side, this is first paragraph type of stuff when they're describing who you've been. Why, you've explained a little bit why it's so important, but tell us a little bit more about not only the importance, but the process for you in finding these next generation of superstars.
So as you go through the world and you recruit, you find this next level of athlete, and you try to train them and get them going. The thing you have to do is then give them the platform to succeed on and help make them stars. NXT does that, and as we started the brand, it very quickly became massively popular. It became our 3rd touring brand. We do 200 live events a year. Our takeover events sell out. They trend globally, worldwide. It's even led us to starting a UK version of the NXT brand that's based there, and we'll do that around the world. But it has become, in essence, for me, it was going out and creating the college football feeder system to the NFL. And that is exactly what we did with this. And you see that right now on Raw and SmackDown, 80% of that roster of Raw and SmackDown came directly out of NXT. They were already stars to a large portion of our fan base that got moved up into Raw, SmackDown. You'll see almost all the matches, except I think 1 or 2 that happen to have 30-year veterans in them.
I was going to say, you're not part of that feeder.
But they came out of that system, all these matches. So the superstars that you see of today came from there. The superstars of tomorrow you will watch tonight on NXT TakeOver, and you know, much like in college football or anything else, you can feel their hunger. They are here, and they're trying to get to here, and their hunger and their passion and their drive and desire to get to that next level, it really shows in the product.
I want to follow up on one thing, because I came up in your era, in the Attitude Era, and when I came up, there was the Monday Night Wars, there was Raw was the biggest thing going. And then SmackDown came along. I don't know if it was the first ever. One of the first ever SmackDown events was in Kansas City. I remember being there in my teenage years.
I think I beat up The Rock.
And then I'm sure you did. Yeah. And so, but I remember being at. I think it might have been the first. But regardless, now SmackDown's coming to Fox starting. I think it's October 4th, Friday, October 4th. It has become an enormous part of your guys' success. Can you tell the audience a little bit about the growth of SmackDown and the importance of it?
It's been huge. You know, the one thing with the WWE fan base, WWE Universe, seemingly the more we give them, the more they want. And when we gave them SmackDown, you know, there was debate internally of do we really need another show? And we gave them SmackDown, and they gravitated towards it. The shows inherently have a slightly different feel.
Yep.
But I can tell you, as important as it has been, this opportunity for us with Fox and to step to a whole nother level, and what Fox brings to the table as the kind of preeminent brand for sports out there and putting sports out there. They are the leaders. And when it comes to that, us to be on there and have that backing and the partnership of, you know, the NFL games and NCAA and Major League Baseball and everything that sits within that world, for us to be a part of that and to connect to that is massive for us, and vice versa. You know, we'll bring an entertainment component and that you see often copied in sport. We'll bring that to the table as well. So while I think SmackDown has been massively important, wait until October 4th. October 4th on Fox, this thing goes to a whole nother level. This thing, SmackDown will become bigger than anybody could have ever imagined it because of this partnership. It's gonna be incredible.
All right, Paul, we do now get to break a little news that should get the WWE Universe buzzing. Beginning this fall right here on FS1, we'll be launching a new weekly WWE studio show on Tuesday nights, completely separate from SmackDown. We were just talking about. The show's going to discuss everything going on in the WWE Universe, including SmackDown, Monday Night Raw, and yes, Triple H, your baby, NXT. More details to come. We don't want to spill all the beans, but the show will feature some faces very familiar to the WWE Universe, both from the past and the present. There you have it, Triple H. What do you think?
This is something I wanted to happen for a long time. I think this is the perfect opportunity for it. A studio show for us, you know, it kind of, because of the sports entertainment aspect of it, it's analyst show where you're talking about the athletic component of it. It's also an entertainment.
Sure.
Where you're
Yeah,
talking
yeah.
about where things are going and the storylines and the characters and all of it. This is going to be one of those shows that if you are a WWE fan, across the board, this is the show that will be can't miss, because it's going to talk about everything you love in a way that you can't get anyplace else.
It's never really existed anywhere. It's been
never
like on
has.
message boards and things, people discussing this type of thing, but
Yes.
someone recognizing there's the athletic part of it, but then there's the storyline aspect,
Yes.
which is really what brings people back every week. They've never had this type of professional, official analysis on a weekly basis.
To take people deeper into the personal lives and the day-to-days of what goes on behind the scenes to being a WWE superstar and everything that goes with it. That success, that failure, that heartbreak, that sorrow, that elation of WrestleMania moments, all of it.
Thank you for listening to the First Things First podcast. Remember, leave us a review and tell us what you think. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts and catch us on FS1 Monday through Friday, 6:30 a.m. Eastern. For Cris Carter and Nick Wright, I'm Jenna Wolfe. So long, everybody.